Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head down to Leicestershire in England, and we've got a beer that should be really interesting to try. So we're going to go to the Mount St Bernard Abbey Brewery and we're having a taste of their Tynt Meadow. So this one is described as an English Trappist ale and it comes in at 7.4%. Now I should point out with this beer and this review actually, I'm filming this in the middle of July in 2018. At the moment these guys aren't officially certified as a Trappist brewery by the International Trappist Association, but they are hoping to do that in the fairly near future. So these guys are one of the new generation of Trappist breweries, if you like, and there's a number of these popping up. I mean, there's Gregorius in Austria, Trefontaine in Italy, Zunder in the Netherlands. There's also the Spencer one over in New England in America as well, and I think there's one out in California that are working with Sierra Nevada that are hoping to be certified as well. So it is cool to see that England are sort of jumping on this kind of Trappist bandwagon as well. It should be an interesting thing going forward to see how many of these sort of Abbey breweries that pop up. But this was another one that I bought from Market Hall Wines in Durham, and you know, Mark and David there have always pointed me in the direction of some really good beers. They told me this one was really nice, so I'm certainly looking forward to trying it, and we'll see how we get on with it. As I said, it's a 7.4% beer. Stylistically, I'm not sure exactly how to describe this one. I know it's a brown beer of some description. It may well be something similar to a Belgian Dubbel going by the percentage of it, but it is some sort of kind of strong brown ale. But we'll see how we get on with it, and like I say, it should be a really interesting one for us to try. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery and the Abbey since it's a Trappist beer as well. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, a link to my future reviews that hopefully I can do from Mount St Bernard Abbey Brewery. Very first time I'm trying one of their beers, and they only have one at the moment as well. Hopefully they can add some more in the near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the English beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then about this one. So as I mentioned to you earlier, the Abbey is located near Colville in Leicestershire, which was formerly part of the parish of Whitwick. But the Mount St Bernard Abbey Brewery, or the Mount St Bernard Abbey rather, was founded in 1835 by a guy with quite an impressive name. So this was Ambrose Leal March Phillips de Leal, who was apparently a landowner and a Catholic convert, and he wanted to bring monastic life back to England after, you know, a kind of long absence. But he was attracted to the Cistercians because his family mansion at Garendon had replaced a Cistercian monastery which had been previously located on that site. But the land that they bought contained an ancient enclosure that was called Tynt Meadow on the 200 acres, and it was in this kind of nearly derelict house within this area that the first monks made their home. But they opened a temporary monastery in 1837, and then they got a permanent monastery opened up in 1844, and this building still actually stands today, and the church was consecrated officially on the 20th of August 1844, and this is the feast day of St Bernard, and then the monastery was granted the status of abbey by Pope Pius IX back in 1848, and also the following year the first abbot was appointed as well. So this was Dom Bernard Palmer. But over the years the monastery had many famous visitors, and in more recent times the lands of the monastery were actually going to be disturbed by the building of the M1, but a group of locals got together and successfully petitioned the government to change the route of it. So they changed it to the route that it's actually taken today, which is kind of an interesting little piece of history that. But the buildings of the monastery were listed as Grade 2 in 1989 as part of a government review on church buildings and kind of religious artefacts and stuff like this. So Grade 2 is quite a strict one. It's not quite as strict as Grade 1, where you really have to have government permission to pretty much do everything. But this abbey is you know, pretty strict in what they can actually do to their buildings, if you like. So it will remain pretty traditional, which is pretty cool. But throughout its history, the abbey's had a total of 14 abbots and superiors, and the current abbot is apparently Norwegian Erik Varden, who also has a PhD. But until recently, the monks had run a 200-acre dairy farm, but they were forced to close this as a result of falling milk prices. They simply just couldn't keep up their income that they needed to have. So to replace this income that they were losing from the dairy farm, they decided to look at brewing. And there were several accounts of monks apparently brewing beer on this site in the 19th century, and the monastery has also joined the International Trappist Association back in 2017. And they say that they're just going to brew enough to sort of meet their own to meet their costs, and also to kind of do their charitable obligations as well. So this will remain a pretty small sort of Abbey Brewery, if you like, but the marketing and things that I've seen from them so far has been pretty good. These beers that they have been reaching all over England from what I gather. I'm not sure if they actually did make it up to Scotland. As I say, I bought this one in Durham, but you know, you never know, this beer may well actually make its way abroad at some point too. But as I say, it's cool to see an English Trappist brewery opening up. And one of the things I should point out, if you have a little look at the artwork on this one, as I said to you, I'm filming this review in the middle of July 2018. They've got the little hexagon there ready, and that, you know, the International Trappist Association, that's the kind of symbol that you would normally get there, but it's not filled in. So as I say, these guys have not been officially certified yet, but they probably will be at some point in the near future. So the rule with when it comes to the Trappist beers, they've got to be brewed within the Abbey walls, if you like. They've also got the profits, as I say, from the brewery have to go towards charitable causes and maintaining the monastery, if you like. So they're already meeting that demand and things, and I'm sure that, you know, they are brewing the beers within the Abbey walls too. So it's quite an interesting one, this, and it will be interesting to see how long it takes them to get certified and whether they brew any other different styles of beer. But yeah, really cool to see England's getting on the Trappist bandwagon as well, and you never know, there might be more of these Trappist breweries open up as well, so we'll just need to see how we go with that. But that's all you really need to know about the Abbey and the brewery at the moment. There wasn't any, I couldn't find out how much they are actually brewing just now, but I'm assuming it will be kind of fairly small. But yeah, really interesting to see this an English Trappist brewery open up. If you want to read a little bit more about them, I'll put the brewery website in the description below. I'll put their Facebook page down there as well if they have one. I've not searched for that yet, but let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself. So I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork of this one before we open it up. So there you can see the Tynt Meadow, of course, that's named after the site on which the monastery and the Abbey is located, if you like. But it says on the back here, with this beer we've returned to a 19th century tradition of brewing in our abbey. When our brethren arrived in 1835, they settled in a poor cottage on Tynt Meadow, now an extension of our monastic enclosure. This strong dark ale re-ferments in the bottle, store it in a cool, dark, quiet place, pour gently at 9 degrees Celsius. So it will probably be around 8 or so degrees at the moment, so it's a little bit colder than it should be, but it should be really nice regardless. 2.4 UK units. Don't drink if you're pregnant, of course, as Harry likes to say. But there you can see the bottle cap on this one is quite nice. I'm not sure what the sort of three things actually symbolise. Maybe it's the Holy Trinity. It could well be that, you know, the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, all of this kind of thing. It's maybe to do with that they've chosen that particular symbol. But as I say, 7.4% beer. Not sure exactly how to describe this one in terms of style, but we'll find out with the tasting. So let's get it out and get on with the tasting. Nice smoky opening then, and we'll get this out and into the glass. So as you can see, it's pouring a really nice dark mahogany colour, and as you open it up, it's actually, you can smell some of the nice brown sugars out of the beer as well. So yeah, if I hold this beer up to the light, it's a really nice dark sort of chestnutty mahogany colour, this one. It's got a little bit of an orange, kind of dark reddish, kind of blood orange quality. If you put it next to the light, you could see there was a half finger of a frothy, slightly beigey coloured head, that one, maybe slightly tan actually, but some big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass and quite a few little ones just heading up towards the bottom of that head there. But overall it looks pretty nice. It's actually a little bit lighter in terms of its colour than you'd normally expect from a Belgian Dubbel, but as I said, I'm not really sure if that is the correct style to list this beer under, but looks pretty nice. So let's see how we get on with the aroma of this one. As I always say, take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck in, because that's always half the experience when it comes to craft beer, whiskey and sake and things like that. Ooh, right. So with this one, it actually, the aroma of this beer actually reminds me a little bit of a German Dunkel or a Doppelbock or something like that, to be honest. Yeah, so some nice brown sugars in there. It's quite toasty. There's a little bit of a rich kind of toffee caramel coming off this one. There's definitely a little bit of a kind of sweeter biscuity note to the beer as well. But yeah, a lot of brown sugar coming out of this beer. There's a little bit of a kind of bready note as well. There's definitely a little bit of a brown bready quality to this one. It doesn't quite have the kind of big bready yeasty qualities in the aroma that you would expect of the Belgian beers. There is a little bit of that there, but for me, that's not all that prominent. The beer has this kind of medicinal quality to it as well. It's got that sort of cough syrupy medicinal thing that you sometimes get from the Belgian Dubels, to be honest. It's got that sort of herbal cough syrupy type thing to it. But yes, some red fruit in there. There's a little bit of a figgy, maybe even pruny quality to this one. It maybe even smells a little bit like a kind of alcohol cake or something like that. Like kind of Christmas puddingy, to be honest. But yeah, definitely a little bit of that kind of red, figgy. I think there's a bit of raisins or plums in there too, but prunes definitely. There's quite an interesting red fruity quality to this one. Maybe a little touch of brown bread. But as I say, the brown sugars are quite prominent. It has that sort of medicinal, cough syrupy kind of quality to it. Nice bit of red fruit. And maybe some bready notes underneath. But as I always say, just take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of it before you get stuck in. That's always half the experience when it comes to craft beer, whiskey and sake and stuff like that. You can see the head on this beer has just faded away to be a very, very thin foamy layer. There's very little of that left actually. So let's see how we get on with this one then. So this one is the Tynt Meadow from the Mount St Bernard Abbey Brewery near Colville in Leicestershire in England. Let's get stuck into this beer then. Slange, Skull, Proust, Santé. Yeah. It's quite a nice beer, that, actually. It's definitely different from any of the other sort of Trappist beers that I've had before, to be honest. And it's interesting because it does have a number of the qualities that you'd expect of a Belgian Dubel, but the yeasty components to it, if it was to be a sort of Belgian type beer, the yeasty components to this one, they're quite a little bit less pronounced. I would say that about it. So I'm not sure technically what you can actually call this beer. Maybe a Belgian strong ale, something like that. Or maybe it's just a kind of particular type of English strong ale. I'm not quite sure about that. But it's definitely an interesting beer, and I do like it actually. So on the malty side of things then, with this beer you can feel there's a nice little bit of a brown bready note that just kind of blankets the middle of your tongue there. It does get progressively sweeter as you go further and further into the flavour of the beer. Yeah, I like what this one's trying to do. There is a little touch of a roasty quality to this one as well, but you can, as I say, you feel that brown bready note as you go further into the flavour, as you go further into the taste actually. It gets gradually sweeter, but some of the roasty characters just push their way out a little bit. Right in the middle of your palate you can detect there's a nice, really dark brown sugar in there. I'm not sure if it is treacle, but as you go further out towards the sides of the tongue, you start to get a little bit of the that nice kind of lighter biscuity, that sweeter caramel, but then you get that bit of that lighter biscuity kind of wafery note to the beer as well. I think there's quite a distinctive woody quality to this one. It's almost got a little bit of a woody spice to it as well as you come further forward on the palate. Yeah, there's definitely a little bit of a woody quality to this beer. It has a little touch of that spicy note in it, which is quite nice. Maybe that evolves to be a little nutty, but if it's nutty, it's very, very kind of very subtle, if you like. The flavours in this beer, for me, it is definitely a little bit more woody than nutty, to be honest. And as you go further into the aftertaste, I would say that woody flavour becomes a little bit more pronounced, and you can feel some of the grainy qualities from the bready base pushing their way out a little bit more. For me, I don't get the impression that they've used a Belgian yeast in this one. I think they probably have used an English ale yeast in this, which is quite surprising actually. I thought they would have used some kind of Belgian yeast with this beer, but it's very different from the other Trappist beers that I've had. But I do like it. I'd be interested to see them brew like a kind of blonde beer and see how they get on with it as well, because they've got the way that they've got the kind of brown sugars in this one is really quite nice actually. But the fact that I think that they've used an English yeast in this one, it really makes it quite different. It's an interesting concoction, this beer, I will say that about it. But in terms of the hops then, in the back corners of the palate there's quite a smooth earthiness to this. It becomes a little bit herbal as you go further forward, and then towards the front corners of the palate it's a little bit floral. So round the front curve of the palate it's a little bit lighter and grassy, I would say. Then if you just go behind the front curve of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of that juicy, fruity quality to this beer, which, you know, is what you'd expect. So I would say in terms of the fruity notes of this beer, I would say there's a sort of figgy, raisiny element to this one. I would say, yeah, it is. There's a little bit of a kind of dried fruity quality to it as well. Yeah, the fruits are quite nice in this. As I say, it's got a little, as you go further into the aftertaste, that fruity note that comes out of it becomes a little bit more kind of candied, like a little bit of strawberry. It reminds me of the little heart-shaped sweets that you get in the Haribo Star Mix. I say that about quite a lot of beers right enough, but that sort of candied, red, fruity flavour that you get from this one, it really does remind me of that. There's a little bit of a kind of figgy note to it as well, and there's maybe a little touch of a raisiny sharpness, but there's a little bit of maybe a, I don't know if it's apricots or something like that. There is a little bit of a kind of dried fruity quality to this beer as well. Yeah, it has a little bit of a kind of sharpness to it in terms of red fruit, but I think there's a little bit of a kind of apricot-y note or something like that coming off this beer as well. It does have that kind of dried fruit quality to it. Like I say, that woody note, I'm finding that as I drink more and more of this beer, that kind of woody note comes out of the beer a little bit more, and it's kind of mixing with the herbal quality that you have on the side of the beer, and when you mix those together, it does give this beer that slightly kind of medicinal quality, if that makes sense. And it's one, you know, when you think about it, it's quite funny to say that this beer has a sort of medicinal quality, because, you know, the Trappist monks, they brewed beer basically so that they could, you know, they could get through Lent and kind of cheat a little bit by drinking beer instead of eating, because of course they had to fast during Lent normally, so they would drink beer instead. And you know, it's always funny to see that these Trappist beers have a little bit of a medicinal quality to them. But for me, it's a nice beer. I'd say the thing that sets this apart flavour-wise, it has quite a few elements that you would expect of the Belgian Dubel. I mean, the brown sugars are there, that little bit of medicinal quality, almost the woody kind of qualities as well, and the red fruit. It's got all of that, but the yeast for me makes this one a little bit different. It doesn't quite have the same kind of big bready notes that you would expect from the Belgian beer, so I really do wonder if they've used a sort of English yeasty quality with this. But for me, it's a pretty damn good beer. That I have to say, they've done a really nice job with this, and I look forward to seeing if they brew some sort of golden ales. It'd be cool to see if they brewed like a sort of trip ale style and a quadruple style, because for me this one probably fits into the Dubel quite nicely. So it would be cool to see them develop a few other beers, and I guess they might well do that over time. But a nice beer, and I'm glad that I was able to try it. In terms of the mouthfeel then, for me it's mid-bodied, carbonation's very, very smooth. The mouthfeel overall is quite an oily one. In terms of the malt base, it's quite smooth, but it does have a good degree of sweetness to it as well. The sort of bready notes, as I say, in this one are not quite what you would expect from a Trappist beer. Normally, a Trappist beer, you would expect it to have the big, doughy Belgian yeast. This one's a little bit more subtle than that. Nice bit of brown sugar sweetness, like I was saying. The hops are very, very smooth. It's got a nice little bit of that earthy quality, a little bit of the sort of herbal thing to it as well, and some lovely kind of juicy fruity notes as well. It has pretty much everything you'd expect to the Belgian Dubel, but it has the medicinal quality, the smooth hops, a bit of the sweetness from the malt, and the red fruits, but it just doesn't quite have that big doughy yeasty character that you'd expect from a Belgian yeast, but overall a very nice beer, and like I said, I'm glad that I got to try this. So yeah, let's leave it at that. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Check out my social media. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Hopefully these guys, like I say, develop a few more beers over the next while and we can return to them. But it's been really cool to review the first English Trappist beer, if you like, in a long time. And I hope you guys have enjoyed it. So yeah, until the next time, Slanger just now, this was the Tynt Meadow from the Mount St Bernard Abbey Brewery near Colville at the St Bernard Abbey in Leicestershire in England. A really interesting beer, this one, and hopefully these guys get their full certification from the International Trappist Association. So until the next time, Slanger just now, and I will catch you guys later. Skål!